Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys? Welcome in. Hey, Miss Rebel. How are you guys? I have an interesting topic tonight. I think it will be really good. I say it's light, but it's not light, but I'm going to have a lot of questions for you. But I guess my goal and tonight is to help you to be able to identify what we want to call attachment wounds. And, as I was going through discussing and finding out what I was going to talk about, I was like, oh, ew. Ew, it's gross. But I do have some things, and I think that it will help you guys. And I think this might be more than a one-time class because it's so much information. But I do want to go through a lot of information with you guys. Hey, Jay, how are you guys? After I get off of here, of course, I'm going to do Work It Wednesday videos that I am going to post the crystals that I got the other day within the private group. So you guys that do follow me over on Facebook can have first dibs on all those new crystals. If you're new in here and you're interested in learning very much about what we're talking about tonight, you can go up into my link in my bio. There is a download you can do. It's free. It is on attachment wounds, and there's typically 4 types, and you can go up there and print it out to see which attachment wound you may have. I know it's not like what's my best quality quiz, but it's a printout that you can print out and kind of look at, and it helps you be able to, one, look at the things going on within you in your adult life, right? What kind of triggers you have, all those different things, right? Because we can give you all the tools in the whole world, and if you don't know how to use anything, you're not going to ever really know what's going on. And if you're stuck in a spiral of crappy relationships, friendships, people using you, hey, Douglas, how are you? If you're stuck, this is a great way to kind of look at what's going on with you. And this is not saying anything's wrong with you or your parents, right? Because a lot of things come from your childhood. Now, I'm not saying some of you guys don't have parents that lacked, right? Sometimes we do. It's what happens. But sometimes us as parents, hey, King, thank you. Sometimes us as parents do have a part in our child's shadow and in things. And it's not on purpose, right? It could be multiple different ways and reasons why. It could be that they still hadn't healed from their wounds. How many of you guys that had traumatic youth had parents that had a traumatic youth, right? So that's where you have to be like, it's going to stop here. And I know a lot of you guys that follow me, you have that, like, I'm done. Like, I want to have healthy relationships. I want to live a life that is happy and content and don't doubt your worth and how powerful you are. Rebel, she's like me. So that's the thing. That's what we're going to talk about. Hey, I am good. Thanks for joining. If you're in here and you want to know what I'm talking about a little further, you can go up into my link up in my bio. There is a free document that you can download for you to look. We're talking about attachment wounds. Okay, attachment wounds. Sounds real simple, but have you ever had a relationship to where you're overly attached to someone or someone's overly attached to you? Or you've had a friend that has a relationship and you're like, just let it go? I mean, we all have those things. Hey, Jade. Thanks for coming in. And so we all have those things. So the worksheet is up in my bio. You can download it for free. No cost, no crazy things. It's just up there for you to have as access. And I'm going to read some of these things to you and you tell me if this resonates with you. And then we're going to talk about kind of the reason why we have them. I'm not a psychologist, right? I'm a healer. I can tell you the information. I can help you implement some of those things. Sometimes you might need a psychiatrist or a psychologist, and there's no qualms there. Like, do what you need to do. I'm giving you information that may be valuable, that even if you do those things, you're going to be more educated on what's going on with you, because it's not just a physical. It's not just spiritual. It's not just emotional. You are all of these things, right? You're all of these things. And so many times we devalue ourselves from that. So I am going to read these. You tell me if any of these resonate. And if you know anybody who this might be good for. Oh, thanks, Madden. I appreciate you. If any of these resonate with you, you're welcome to raise your hand and admit it. Hey, Tennessee. Or not. But just think about these things, okay? These are 10 signs of unprocessed attachment wounds, okay? These could happen lifetimes ago. These could happen from your childhood. These can happen all different times of your life. So we're going to talk about it, okay? You're caught in the anxious avoidant trap. You are the pursuer in the relationship and the other person is the distancer, or vice versa. You think that if you fix yourself, that you'll fix your relationship. Does this sound like anybody? It's a huge myth. You'll likely need to find a secure partner or do counseling, things like that, but you can't fix a relationship on your own because you will never be the only one with attachment wounds, right? We all have our own stuff, okay? You feel unfulfilled in most of your relationships. Even when someone is constantly there, you question whether they are there to reject you, leave you, or use you. Okay, does that sound like I can relate to that one, right? You feel unfulfilled in most relationships because even when someone is constantly there, you question, will they reject you, leave you, or use you, right? Right? We're human, right? These are real things, but they're caused from certain things. Yeah, absolutely. You experience a lot of negative self-talk in relationships. You have a constant dialogue going on in your mind about how you're not good enough or you're undeserving of good. Maybe you just justify why others don't treat you well. Somehow it's your fault, right? Somehow you're just inherently bad and no one will want you. You don't deserve to be happy, right? All the negative self-talk. You have trust issues. You have really difficult time trusting others. Despite a long history with someone who has been trustworthy, you still question their motives, right? You still question their motives. The small voice inside your head tells you something is wrong and someone is untrustworthy. Maybe it's all internal alarm systems going off. But rather than staying away, you go forward, right to the danger, right? You feel it. You know it. I'm going for it. So that's another one, right? You have a history of unhealthy relationships. This does not just have to be a significant other. This can be work relationships, friendships, family, your kids, your aunts, your uncles, anyone in your path. You have a history of unhealthy relationships. This may involve distancing yourself when you feel too close to others, and it may involve in needing to constantly be in a relationship. You may suspect you have issues with what some call love addiction or sex addiction, or maybe you've avoided relationships at all costs, right? Because there's always a yin to yang. There's always this extreme or there's the other extreme. You either think your family is perfect, my family is so perfect, or you can't stop thinking about how much they failed you. The people who were supposed to love you hurt you in a variety of ways. This may be overt abuse, or it may be subtle nature where your caregivers just weren't there for you in ways that were needed. Thanks, guys, for the gifts and likes and all that. You either avoid thinking about your childhood with your parents, or you can't stop thinking about how painful it was. The above things, or the things we talked about, are all signs of unprocessed attachment wounds. Many people don't consider it to be indicative of any kind of trauma. But if you struggle with any of the above, this tells me that the attachment system is being triggered, which likely means you have unprocessed attachment wounds. Right? And I know we're in here, we all know, like, we have stuff, right? That's why we're trying to heal and make ourselves better and the place better and all those things. but I want to walk through some things, and then I want to talk to you about some things that you can do. A lot of times, this is something that therapists will talk about with you. This is stuff that a lot of times is very difficult to look internal, right? Because we always are looking for the blame. And I'm not discounting all the things that you guys have been through, nor what I've been through. Okay. But we're adults now. Okay. We're adults. We get to protect ourselves, our inner children, our inner child. We get to make decisions for our inner child. Okay. We're adults. We can be the protector of our inner child, right? We can choose to say, no, you're not going to talk to me bad like that. You're not going to go past my boundary. That is very hard. But I need you guys to know that you're still adults and you can protect your inner child. Your inner child that likes to throw temper tantrums on the floor and make a fool of you in front of other people because it responds just like the child of where the trauma happened, right? Toddlers lay on the floor and scream when they don't get their way. What does your inner child do? Acts a fool. A lot of time acts a fool. And I say that with the most love because when you're struggling, you have unprocessed trauma. There's trauma that sits there that you really didn't know what to do with as a child or as a young adult or in a relationship. And so you suppress it and you don't really know what to do with it. So it stays there, right? It stays there. Hey, thanks for joining. So I'm going to read some information I have here, and then I'm going to go through some more information. If you guys have questions, or raise your hands when something resonates. So, what is your attachment wound? And yes, you have one. There's not anyone in here that is like, oh no, I'm perfect. I don't have, no, everything's great. You can say that, but we all are human, and we all, oh, I love that. And we all have things that we can work on and that can make us better human beings. And the best gift we can give to ourselves and to others is growing and learning on who we're meant to be. So, your current ex-boyfriend. So, what is your attachment wound? And yes, you have one. As infants, toddlers, and children and adults, we all have the core need to connect with another human being and feel safe in their presence. Does anyone in here love meeting people and feeling safe in their presence and knowing this person actually is probably the real deal and they don't expect anything from me? They're just a friend. They're just light, right? Those are the best kind of people. And it's hard to find them, but they're there. They're there. There's a lot in this circle. They're there, okay? They're not in competition with you. They're not jealous. They want what's best for you. These people are here, right? They're here. But in fact, this needs to be understood and accepted by another is the driving force fueling our choices and impacting your relationships. So these do drive the choices that you make within relationships until you make a change. We don't want just love and to be loved. We need it, right? We need it. Yet there are so many different ways that we did not have that need met. And just as many ways that attachment injury from long ago surfaces in your adult. And to say that if you're a parent and you're in here and someone said to say that if you're a parent and you're in here and someone said that if you're a parent and you're in here and someone said sorry, my phone was ringing. If you're a parent and you're in here or you're a friend and someone comes to you and says you hurt them, you can say no, you didn't. But you don't get to force people to change how they feel. And that is a big problem because when you go to someone and say, hey, you probably didn't mean to do this, but this is what you said and it hurt me. And someone says, no, I didn't do that. You don't get to say, I mean, you can, but really you don't get to say you didn't do that because how perception is everything and how someone receives something is everything. And while it may not be your responsibility to tiptoe around people, when people come to you to try to work through something, I do feel like as a good friend that it is your responsibility to hear and let them be heard. Your triggers are your own responsibility. right? That sucks because sometimes I would love to blame some stuff on other people. But the way you react is yours. And as an adult and you grow and you start finding ways to correct those things, to grow into your high self. And that's kind of the goal, right? When we have consistent and reliable caregivers who help us meet this need, we grow up feeling safe, secure, and understood in relationships. This can be called having secure attachment style because we feel secure with ourselves and safe in relationships. The baby who is consistently receiving smiles and eye contact from a mother as a mom coos and loving holds and is getting their needs met have a great foundation for secure attachment. But sometimes people don't even have this as babies. And I again, I'm not saying that the parents that aren't able to provide that at all the time, or sometimes a child is not capable of processing something, and there's going to be things that happen. It's life, right? Nothing is perfect. We're here to learn, right? And this is the perfect way that you can learn. So what about mom or dad who's running for late for work, stressed about money, anxious about their own life, and therefore not connecting to the inner world of their child for a moment? Or when the child is upset, dad or mom isn't able to be soothing and present. There are times that happens to everybody. So do not feel like because your child struggles that you're a bad parent, okay? It's important for me to say that. It's probably not a big deal if it happens once in a while, but if it is ongoing, the little child may experience an attachment wound, okay? An attachment wound means the inner world was not understood, recognized, or accepted by the parent. This emotional attunement someone's getting is a universal core, a need for us all, and is especially necessary for children, okay? When the need is not met, the first reaction is to protest. Your nervous system will go into fight or flight when it doesn't work. The child may shut down, in essence, disconnecting from that need. The kid will then verbalize or intellectually understand in the moment, but it is a felt experience. When this goes on and on and on for a lot of us in much more dramatic, unhealthy, and abusive ways, the young one internalizes these unhealthy messages that are compounded with then core beliefs about themselves and how relationships work. Okay, is this making sense for you? This is a form of self-betrayal because we learn to relinquish our needs and emotions in order to gain love and approval from a parent. And then it plays on into your day-to-day life in relationships and things like that. And I'm going to give you some examples. Let's take into example a child reaching for a cookie without a parent's permission. The mother and father says no, and the child reacts with crying or a temper tantrum because they're a child. If the parent lacks the emotional maturity and the ability to contain their child's emotional outbursts, the parent may end up shaming the child. Stop crying. Why can't you just behave like all the other children? The parent not allowing the child to be sad or disappointed in that moment is teaching the child that it's not safe to authentically express your emotions to them or whoever is around. Don't make your father angry. The child has just been taught that anger is something that should be avoided at all costs. The result, the child disconnects from these emotions and represses them and learns to survive in more inauthentic ways. You push it down. Your little child inside of you pushes it down. Just like you as an adult, when you don't want to deal with something, you push it down. You push it down. You push it down, right? That's what we do. We push it down. It's what we do. When it does not feel safe for my outside expression to match my inside, I must repress the feeling or this part of me so I can survive. This is the beginning of being disconnected from emotions and authentic parts of ourselves for the sake of maintaining relationships and getting our needs met. We also call this abandoning authenticity for attachment. We abandon our authenticity for attachment. I'm going to say it again. We abandon our authenticity for attachment. How many of you guys have been in relationships, friendships, situations that there's things that you do that are not you, it's really not something you would typically do. Or you don't do things you want to do. Because if you did, it would cause problems, right? If what would happen if you traveled and did the things that you loved? Would you lose people? 100%. 100%. But how many of us, including myself, I'm talking to myself too, have led parts of our life inauthentically because we have the need for attachment so much, and that feels like that's the only way that we would get it. And we're not thinking about it when we do it. It's second nature. It's second nature. Your needs aren't met. Well, I mean, as a mother, as a mother or as a parent or someone who has worked with children, example, any of you guys, when something needs to be done, right? Usually we just do it because we have to. But that also leads us to being very unauthentic on who we are, right? If you don't want to teach spiritual stuff, you shouldn't teach spiritual stuff, right? If you don't want to eat 3 meals a day, don't eat 3 meals a day. And those are silly things, right? But it is a very real thing in relationships and with you guys and myself in your day-to-day life. Someone at work may be doing something that you absolutely, it pisses you off. And you don't want to say anything, or you've said it all the time and no one listens. So you're sitting there not being yourself and not doing the things you would normally do, because why bother, right? And that's just one example. You could be in a relationship with someone. I know someone that their significant other hates that they do spirituality now and doesn't allow them to do certain things. Doesn't allow, right? She is not living her authentic self, right? And further, if you don't express when you're pissed off and you don't cry and you don't feel your emotions, you are abandoning authenticity for attachment. Hey, Avron, how are you? Hey, Charles. So what kinds of things do you abandon that are truly who you are in order for you to feel connected to someone? It's a very powerful question. It's a very powerful question because it's thought-provoking, right? What kind of things about yourself do you abandon or have you done in the past? You're waiting on your glitter. You abandon so you can have attachment. And that's heartbreaking, right? That's heartbreaking because as an empath or me being me, like I look at my friends and I truly love like all the disgusting and great and all the parts, right? Because they're human, right? You're going to fail. You're going to have this happen. You're going to have, it's part of life, right? It's a learning experience. And so many people are not allowed to show anyone who their authentic self is, because what if they really saw me? So instead, I'm abandoning who I want to be and who I'm growing into, because you're not allowed to change, right? Your parents might not agree with what you are or who you are. People might judge you. You might be by yourself, right? There's so many different things. So this is not about if it's not safe to be spontaneous, creative, overweight, underweight, a dancer, an artist, have different colored hair, do things that you want, the natural reaction is to feel ashamed and disconnect from that part of yourself. What part of yourself are you disconnected from? Right? What part of yourself are you disconnected from that you don't want anyone to see? This is your shadow, right? You need help identifying your shadow. What part do you not want people to see? And it doesn't have to be bad, right? Your shadow has good parts in it, right? Your emotions. Yeah, we abandon so many parts, right? We do. The imprint on the nervous system in order to survive and maintain the relationship. I can't be like this. This is what's happening in your subconscious telling you that. Okay. Criticizing the child. And this goes for criticizing your adult child too, right? When I say criticizing the child, I'm talking about you criticizing your inner child too, right? It's a twofer because you're not healing because you're still treating your inner child like they're wrong for feeling the way that they did, or for expressing things, for being gay, for being bisexual, for being, not wanting a relationship, for not getting married, for not having kids, for being a smartass. There's so many things that people deem is not appropriate. And when it's all said and done, it's no one else's damn business. Your job here on this planet is for you to learn and grow, right? That's why you're here. Lessons, right? That's why you're here. So when you treat your inner child the same way that your parents and the people around you, no, I wasn't calling you out. But Earth, it is a school. It is a school, and we're here to learn. And do you know when you start learning, that's when doors open up. It is like, I made this random, and I'm not saying I'm above anybody by any means, because my life is a shit show sometimes too, right? But I'm saying, like, now I have weird things happening. Like, I want to go speak. I want to go speak. I want to be a speaker. I don't want to be a speaker. Why am I being called to do that? I don't want to do that. But no, that's like, there is shadows. Like when I did Reiki, and I'm using this as an example because you guys can understand. I'm like, whatever my family, none of my family likes that. It was very hard for me to come out and start doing Reiki, because my family doesn't believe in it and they don't like it. They think it's weird. They all go to Christian church, and that's fine. I don't mind. I can have a spiritual experience almost anywhere. But it doesn't matter, because I would have missed out on being able to do some healing for myself and and friends, because I felt shame from it. Right? I felt shame from it. And there's no reason for me to feel shame. That's ridiculous, right? As me being here, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because it's absolutely something everyone should do. But I felt ashamed. Like, I felt shame. Like, I don't want to put it up there. What if they see? What if? Right? I am not going to put that on my inner child anymore. Right? Yeah, you do have your inner teen, right? They come out and like to party and act crazy. It's true. It's true. But so relationships, if they're not safe places, this is where these build, whether it be from childhood, adulthood. And if you do not hear your inner child or acknowledge it, and you push them down just as the people around you did, you're going to not ever look at things differently. Okay? Your inner child is screaming to be heard. Okay? Attachment injury or attachment trauma results from a felt experience of being unsafe rather than literally being in danger, although it can still be the case. To the parent who has good intentions, they still provide food, shelter, and basic necessities, even though the child can still find it unsafe to be authentic in his or her relationship with their parent, because the little one's anger, sadness, spontaneity, impulsivity, creativity, and curiosity were not met with acceptance and understanding, right? They were not seen, felt, heard, or understood. And I want you to know that there are things that happen, like me and my oldest had this conversation about when my brother passed away, and he said when Jason died, he felt like he lost his mom for a little bit. And he did. He probably did, right? Because that's a huge amount to process. The experience was so traumatic for me. And I had to stop and think, right? That's going to be part of his shadow and his recovery he has to do. And I'm here to help him, right? Because I recognize that happened. But the thing is there's situations and circumstances that happen in your life that are going to cause you to check out, and it's going to affect other people. You're not a bad person for not being perfect. And it's time for you to stop acting that way. Okay. So, your parent may be unable to tolerate, understand, or accept a child being childish because of their own emotional immaturity, past trauma of their own, other reasons. It does not mean necessarily they're a bad parent. There can be bad parents. I'm not saying there's not. This is just an example. However, when a child has the feeling and the experience of, it's not safe to have this need, mommy or daddy won't care or won't love me, or grandma and grandpa, or the kids at school, whoever, aren't going to accept it, that's when there's the lack of connection, right? That's where there's the attachment wound, right? Because you're not attached because you don't feel fully accepted. This need is not going to be met in the relationship. I must detach, disconnect from having this need. In that moment, the little one isn't able to understand that the parent's emotional immaturity caused the lack of connection. They just have the experience of feeling unsafe and expressing in the need. The result is the potential beginning of an avoiding attachment style. I must shut down, avoid intimacy, because it's not safe to rely on this person and or relationship to get that need met. I'm done. I can't. Right? That resonates with me. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. The definition of trauma is constantly evolving by every single person that has it. By a specific incident such as war, abuse, neglect, accident, natural disaster, all of these things can play a role. In what you do and how you have relationships. And you wouldn't think something like, say a tornado came and took your house and your parent was absolutely a mess, right? It doesn't mean that your parent didn't love you, right? It means that they were unavailable because they were trying to deal with trauma, deal with a significant life event. It still doesn't mean that you don't have things to work through. Yeah, I'm horrible at shutting down too. Yeah. The fight or flight shutdown response of the nervous system kicks in as a result of feeling unsafe in the relationships. It's not possible for the nervous system to come back to baseline because we live in the same house with the same parents month after month after month after month. And same with relationships and things like that. And the reality of not getting our needs met results in our system being dysregulated. Okay. So you wonder why? It's because your system was dysregulated, right? The normal thing is, in the ideal perfect situation, is that your needs are met, right? And then everybody's needs are met. And then everybody has great relationships and they're all accepting of everybody and everything's great. But you're here on this planet to learn. It's a school, right? You're going to learn. And you learn about yourself. And the more you learn about yourself, the more you actually realize you don't know. You don't know who you are at all until you start growing. Yeah, absolutely. Shut down, but working daily to face and transform. Yeah, it can be hard. With trauma, there doesn't have to be an obvious incident, and that's what people don't understand. If you can't remember one significant incident that happened, and you don't know if it happened or it did or didn't, that is not what means that you have trauma to work through. It just means that someone was not there to emotionally attune or understand the child's inner world. If this happens over time, it may result in developmental or attachment wounds and trauma. This means that the child is now interpreted in a very felt sense that this attachment and relationship that they depend on for survival is not available. At this point, the system feels safe and feels unsafe, and the fight or flight freezes. You fight because you're trauma. Yeah. No, it's really. This is why when we see a child disconnecting or acting out in ways that allows him or her to survive without getting their core needs met, it's also why as adults, relationships are challenging. Even though we're no longer children, when this felt sense connected to the past moments is triggered, we act in ways that are meant to protect us as if it were at that time. So a lot of times when we act out, we're acting from that time that the trauma happened, sometime around there, right? It's stored within you and you're acting that way. So We act in ways that are meant to protect us, but actually we're hurting us and our inner child in the relationship. The key here is the awareness that in this moment as an adult, we may very well be safe, and the person we are in a relationship with is likely able to meet our needs and our connection. But it is our protective response of our system which gets us triggered in the moments of intimacy. Thus, we resort to our old ways of disconnecting, fight or flight, shutting down. It wasn't safe in the past, so our system's threat detector sees it as unsafe. And that's why I said the other day, when you have triggers, you might consider that as a protector, right? It's coming out. Your system is going to come kick someone's ass because this is what it feels and this is what's going to happen. And so it doesn't want it to happen again. And so it absolutely does that. When you're dysregulated, the nervous system releases a stress hormone, adrenaline, and cortisol. This happens when a child or a young person learns that their primary attachment person cannot be relied upon for safety. Living in this state means a person feels insecure, stirred up, and unsafe to be around anyone. This is the attachment wound. As adults, whenever a person, situation, or experience triggers this felt sense of not being safe, we react in ways that we had to resort in the past, which is to say that we don't act with alignment, we don't act in empathy, we don't act in authenticity, and we don't act in connection. We want it done. We don't want to deal with it. In other words, we had to betray the need or that part of ourselves in order to survive, so it makes sense that we still feel unsafe in the present. Okay? As a result of the wound, we form core beliefs about ourselves and our relationships. I'm not okay. I'm bad. I don't measure up. These are common ones. Can a father leaving? Oh, of course. 100%. Yeah, absolutely. Relationships don't last. I'll be abandoned. I'm unlovable, right? This becomes your identity, right? You already know this. So then you're going to attach to people who prove you exactly in the worst moments what it is. This is your comfort. This is what you know. You know what to expect to happen. When our unhealthy core beliefs and attachment wounds surface in the moments of intensity and intimacy, relationship attachment trauma impacts you far more than you could ever think. This is not to say that we all suffered from heavy, what we would consider abuse or neglect. It could be much more subtle than that. And it's also not going to blame anyone. Our parents likely, not always, were good people and did their best. Still, we want to understand and recognize how our attachment wounds are manifesting in our adult behaviors. Okay? And sometimes your parents' attachment wounds are the same ones as yours, are the same ones as your grandparents, and no one talks about it, right? This is that generational and ancestral trauma, curses, whatever people want to call it. Learning how to recognize your attachment injury and how to work with it and heal with it is necessary for your mental health, the maintenance of healthy relationships, okay? That is why we heal, right? Because we want to do better. We want to be better. She says, "Oh, great." So, up in the link in my bio, and I put this over in the Blended Spirit for you guys earlier, so you had access to it to be able to pull up. It gives you an example of 4 different attachment styles, and it kind of tells you how you feel in the different boxes. I have a whole bunch more information from that, but that's why I said it'll probably be a part 2. So, all right, what is attachment? It can also be helpful for us to discuss what is a healthy attachment. As we grow from conception to infancy, our toddler years and adolescence to teenagehood and beyond, there are certain development markers that are supposed to be met to ensure a healthy development. No matter what it is that needs to be met, our parents and our caregivers, as well as everyone around you, are responsible for this. A secure attachment can be described as a critical connection that's formed between an infant and a caregiver. It is through this connection that the infant receives loves, soothing touch, giggles, smiles, eye contact, and basic needs and food. fresh clothing, diaper changes, and play, right? This is that. So, I'm not going to go through all of the notes I have because, like I said, this is going to be a double class, but I do want to get back here in the back and get to these attachment styles. Where are you? All right. All right, this is what I want to do. I found it. All right, so I'm going to read to you attachment styles in adulthood, okay? And then I'm going to read some other things for you, and you can let me know if this resonates with you. So a secure attachment style in adulthood would be this. You are capable of receiving and expressing affection. You are able to fully regulate emotions, feelings, positive view of relationships. You have great communication. Actively seek and give emotional support for all partners and friends and relationships and things of that nature. That's a secure, right? And ambivalent, which is a preoccupied one. So if you have a preoccupied attachment, you have a strong desire to have friendships and relationships. Your self-worth is dependent on the treatment by others. You're more likely to develop feelings of jealousy, and you might be very clingy, right? You might be very clingy in adult relationships, right? And the clinginess comes from, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be here. I'm going to do what you need. Like, what do you need? Are you mad at me? Like, what are we doing? Right? That's how it comes across. I texted you 5 times. You didn't text back. Did something happen? Did someone say something bad about me? Like, what's going on? Why didn't you call me? Like, it couldn't be possibly that they had something else they had to do. It has to be that you're the most terrible person, right? So a disorganized, fearful, avoidant attachment. You have difficulty believing others will accept you as you are. You will push others away due to the fear of being hurt. You expect the worst in friendships and relationships. You're fearful of being close to anyone. You expect rejection. You expect it. You are more likely to prematurely end a relationship because fuck that, you're not leaving first. Right? Anybody? Any takers? Any takers on that one? If I'm going to get the slightest like thing to think that you're going to leave, you're done. I'm out. Right? That is one. Dismissive avoidant is this. Dismissive of others and hyper independence, avoids vulnerability with others, fears committing to a relationship. Relationships and friendships are a low priority, and you have blunted emotions. Okay? Blunted emotions. All right. I'm going to go through it again because I'm saying it in different ways to see which ones resonate with you. All right. Again, a secure attachment. Okay, a secure attachment is comfort was provided when needed. As a child, as a baby, as a older child, your emotions were regulated. You were allowed to feel. You had freedom to explore and feel safe on returning, right? You were able to feel anything you wanted to feel. You learned how to self-regulate. Responded to child's connection-seeking behavior. Somebody responded to the behavior that you needed to get. They were there for you, okay? Dismissive avoidant attachment style. Okay. This means connection-seeking behaviors were ignored. Okay. In my mind, I used to always work with children in the school system and things like that many years ago. And when they have connection-seeking behaviors that were ignored, right? And you can vibe with all of them. They can absolutely be intermixed. They can be. This is just the choices, really, and the way that they're divided. So if you're the dismissive, avoidant, and attachment style, your connection-seeking behaviors were ignored. Your emotions were not regulated. Your needs were not listened to. You had increased frustration that was displayed by a caregiver because you would not be good. Does that make sense to you guys? An anxious, preoccupied attachment. You had inconsistent care from a caregiver. It went hot and cold emotional regulation responses. The needs were sometimes listened to. Infants more likely to become clingy, which could irritate a caregiver. Okay? An infant was more likely to be clingy and really, really need to be held and need all these things, right? Because they felt that they didn't get it sometimes, so now they're going to have to do this to get it all the time. So this is just kind of, as an infant, what would happen. The fearful avoidant attachment. Your caregiver was a soy Sophia. Your caregiver is a source of fear. Okay? This is when some things can be physical and not be very good, right? When your caregiver is a source of fear, when there was absolutely unpredictable parenting and you never knew what to expect. Emotionally neglectful, and a lack of a comfort received from any caregiver, right? When that happens, you do, for real, carry those over. So if you did have a traumatic childhood to where there was physical abuse, and any of the ways that there is physical abuse, you can get terrified to be in relationships. You can be scared, right? You avoid closeness because I know what people who love you do. Okay? Does that make sense? You learn this is what people who love you do. I think I'll pass. Right? So that stays with you. So, do you? Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I am going to post some different things over in the Blend Your Spirit group. If you guys are not in Blend Your Spirit over on Facebook, it is a small private group. And I am going to be posting some worksheets for you in there that are very simple. They look like this. And this is for you to, it says, as we found out already, the upbringing we receive has a big impact on our adult attachment style. Take some time to reflect on the positive and negative experiences you had in childhood that you believed impacted your attachment style. Now, I'm not saying if you don't want to sit down and write this shit down, sometimes people don't want to. Totally get it. Like, why bring it back up? However, if you're one that's working through it, right? Positive and negative things. It's for you to hold on to, right? You can print it up. Nobody has to see it. You can burn it if you want to. You can do whatever you want with it. It's there for you. So, wounds in adulthood. Attachment wounds tend to show up in adulthood. A wound develops due to an unmet child need. There are different types of wounds for each attachment style. Okay? You do not have to fit in one attachment style. You can have a mix. Okay? You can have a mix. It doesn't have to be one thing. But if you are the dismissive avoidant attachment style, you're like, what is love? I don't know what that is. Right? Hey. If you're the preoccupied attachment style, you think you'll be abandoned no matter what. It's going to end in being abandoned. Fearful avoidant. I'm going to be betrayed. I know it. Why even do it? I'm going to be betrayed. Nothing's going to work. Okay? And I'm just throwing these out here for you guys to sink in and listen to some of it. So here is some dismissive avoidant wounds. This tends to be, the dismissive is very, they all have different parts, right? For all of us, I think. This just gives them a name, okay? But dismissive avoidant is characterized by blunted emotions and lack of connection with others, okay? So your core wound that you have, if you are dismissive avoidant and attachment style, and I know these are big things to talk about and big words and all that. If you're just coming in, you can go up into the link in my bio and download the little paper so you have the actual words. The core wound for you, if you're dismissive, is I am faulty and I am unlovable. Okay? No one's going to love me because I'm unlovable. The reason why you feel this way, and this is why I wanted to get to this point in it. When your core wound, you are faulty and unlovable. This is the explanation why. Okay? Unless regulated or told otherwise, children personalize everything. Due to the lack of strong bonds with parents, you feel like something's wrong with you. Okay? And again, I'm saying parents. It can be so many more people. And again, the parents are the ones you spend the most time with typically, right? And it's just what it is. Not all parents go out trying to hurt people. Sometimes significant events happen. Like I said, I just talked to my oldest and he told me he felt like he lost me when my brother died, right? So that can leave something for him, right? So your core wound, I am faulty and unlovable. You are this way. You think this way because you were not regulated or told otherwise. Children personalize everything. And due to the lack of strong bond with parents or caregivers, you felt like something was wrong with you. Right? Hey, how are you? So the behaviors that you do because you feel like you're faulty and unlovable, and you feel like something's wrong with you because of this, your behavior is, this presents as a withdrawal in relationships. If someone gets too close, you fear they may see that you are faulty, or that you truly shouldn't be loved, or they shouldn't love you and treat you well. Okay? The emotions you carry the most are sadness and shame. You carry sadness and shame, and you don't even have a reason to feel the shame, because the way that you feel like that is not even something that you did. Okay? And this is where I wanted to get with the shadow work tonight. I have a couple of these pages that I'm going to go through on this, but if you are dismissive avoidant with attachment, right? Because there's several kinds. And again, over in Blended Spirit, there are some worksheets I'm going to upload for you. And you can go to the bio up above and click your own worksheet to know what the hell I'm talking about, okay? But if you feel you're faulty and unlovable, that is your core wound, because you did not have a strong bond with parents or caregivers and you feel like something is wrong with you. This presents withdrawal in relationships. If someone gets too close, you fear they might see that you're not good enough and you're not worthy. The emotions you harbor are sadness and shame. You're shameful for things that you didn't even do. And that's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking, but it's very real, right? It's very real. All right. The dismissive, avoidant attachment. The core wound can be, I am alone and I am unwanted. How many of us feel like we're alone? We feel this way, right? Inherently, we feel this way. You feel like you're alone and unwanted because you assume this happened long term. You assume this is going to happen long term because you were shown some signs of not being wanted in childhood. Okay? I'm unwanted and I'm alone. You assume this is going to happen to you for the rest of your life because you were shown signs of not being wanted in childhood. This causes you to avoid getting close with others, withdrawing and isolating yourself, Deliberately keeping yourself alone because you have comfort in it because nobody wants you, but you're okay with that. Though you're not, right? The emotions you have are loneliness and emptiness. And again, it's heartbreaking and it's heart-wrenching that the emotions you have of loneliness and emptiness are not due to anything that you did, right? You carry this with you into your relationships, into your friendships, into your parenting, into work, all these things. Your core wound, I'm alone and I'm unwanted, right? You think it's going to happen to you always, so F it. You avoid getting close to others. You withdraw, isolate yourself, deliberately keeping yourself alone because there is comfort in being alone because no one is going to tell you you're unwanted. And you're lonely and empty. It's powerful, isn't it? You feel lonely and empty. You harbor feeling lonely and empty for something you had nothing to do with. It makes me crazy, right? When you start looking at it, how heavy have your shoulders been because you feel like you weren't wanted because something that happened when you were a child, your parents, grandparents, somebody made you feel like you weren't wanted. And you've spent your whole life thinking you're alone and unwanted. How dare that happen, right? Though I know sometimes it just happens, right? But it is so heavy. Like how many of the emotions that you carry actually have nothing to do with anything you did, yet you still are a stubborn ass and you carry them. It's true. It's true. Okay. Dismissive avoidant wound, the next one. I am unsafe. You constantly feel you're not safe. No matter what, you're never safe, right? Never safe. Because you had emotional neglect. You receive the message that you're unable to trust your parents to receive adequate love and care and protection. I'm unsafe. And then you carry it with you. Your behavior is you feel like you're on constant alert. You have difficulty resting. You form strong attachments with work, money, or animals because these things you can rely on, right? They are your trees, not humans, because you're unsafe. And anyone that loves you, you've learned, doesn't keep you safe. That's tragic, right? The emotions you carry, fear, agitation, and irritation. And usually you carry the most fear, agitation, and irritation at the people that try to love you. Usually you find ways to run them off, right? Usually you find ways to run them off because you know what people who love you do. Hey, Stacy. Yeah. Dismissive avoidant wounds. Next one. Core wound. I'm trapped and I'm powerless. I can't do anything right. The explanation is because forming a close emotional bond with someone is scary because you think by doing so, your emotions are then in the hands of someone else. That you were not able to express your emotions. So you have to depend on someone else to tell you what your emotions are. That way you can stay in a relationship that way you're loved, right? I'm a good girl, right? Right? You just tell me how to feel. I'm a good girl. I feel that way, right? That is what your inner child is doing. And I need you guys to understand that, right? When you're in a relationship or a friendship or something, right? I feel trapped and powerless. This is because you have not been loved and catered to and been appreciated for the things that you truly are, okay? You attached and had these emotional bonds, and you had to believe what they believed for you to be safe and receive love. So you don't even know what it's like to feel your own emotions. Your behavior is you might be less likely to check in on your partner, and you are less likely to share how you are feeling with others, right? These are the ones that keep it all in, right? And I that one resonates with me. You guys know sometimes you'll ask me, how am I? How are you, Kitty? I'm fine. I'm great. Lovely. Right? And I know I there's a time and a place, right? There's a time and a place to not be completely transparent all the time. Like, everybody has their struggles. But this core wound of being trapped and powerless is because no one ever appreciated you for being who you are. Okay? In fact, they pushed it down and made you feel terrible, right? You're the little girl or little boy dancing loudly in front of the TV, living your best life. And you need to be quiet. You're so loud. You're going to wake your dad up and he's going to be mad. Bet you never danced again, right? It's true. You're less likely to share how you're feeling with others because you're trapped and you've had to depend on other people's emotions that aren't your emotions. The emotions you harbor are frustration and fear. Frustration and fear. The next one is a good one. Not that they're not all good, but this one's good. Okay, the core wound, I don't matter and I'm misunderstood. How many people does that resonate with? I don't really matter. It's fine. I don't matter. I don't matter in that group. I'm not needed. I'm just misunderstood. No one gets me. Like, they don't know me. One, I'm going to tell you, you probably don't even know yourself if that's how you feel. Even though we all feel this way at some point, right? We truly do. But the reason why you feel like you don't matter and that you're misunderstood is your caregivers did not pay attention to your emotional needs. So it became difficult to communicate what you needed from them. Okay. So you stopped. So then you felt invisible. You did things yourself. You took things upon yourself, right? You're the fixer. You did these things. The behaviors that you exhibit and express, you're hesitant to bring up emotion through fear of these being rejected by someone. Okay. This one makes so much sense because you're hesitant to bring up how you really feel. Because what if you told them that you actually really cared about them? Would that push them away? Would it? It doesn't matter because you're misunderstood. So I'm not going to bring it up. People always misunderstand me, right? I'm just speaking like what your mind speaks to yourself, right? You're scared of being rejected by the other person, so you're not going to tell them how you really feel. And again, that doesn't have to be like, I'm scared to tell them I love them. You could be like, I'm scared to tell him to go fuck himself. Because that's how I feel. But I'm not going to ever say it because they might reject me. Which we don't really care if they reject us, right? But it's the mental thing. It is the cycle. It's cyclic, it cycles. You can be scared that someone you absolutely don't like is going to reject you. It's mental. It's completely mental. These are triggers. And when I tell you a trigger is this, it is an open door to a classroom to where you can choose to walk in and the subject is you, right? Hemp, when you get pissed off and someone makes your head spin around and turn exorcist, in that moment, right after it happens, you have the option, right? There is an open door to a classroom in that moment for you to say, what the hell just happened? I'm going to dig a little deeper. And when you do these and you start seeing those little changes, like, why did I just flip shit and do that? And literally nothing happened, but I still flipped out. These are your triggers, right? These are your classroom doors, just waiting for you to go in, right? It can be terrifying. But you're hesitant to bring up emotions because you don't want to be rejected by the other person. Because, I mean, your parents thought you were too much, right? My parents told me I was too much all the time, right? I often used to say, I don't matter. I'm not doing my job. I'm misunderstood. People don't like me. What am I doing? Okay. I'm being very transparent with you guys right now, right? It is. Because sometimes when I was young, everyone else needed the attention. So I had to suck it up and take care of it and do it, right? And that's of no fault of like my family. It's just the family dynamic that happened, right? And I'm not angry with anybody. I just very much recognize some of the things that are true shadow parts for me, right? To work through, right? I have self-doubt all the time, right? I do. And that is because I didn't have emotional needs met when I was younger. I got made to feel like I was too much if I needed something. So I didn't matter as much as the next person, right? I could try and say, hey, I needed to do this, but it didn't really matter, right? It didn't really matter. And so then that makes you hesitant to bring up emotions of how you feel because you might be rejected by others. And again, you still will have rejection issues and abandonment issues with people that are absolutely toxic for you that you should absolutely let go of. Real shit. Because you will attract people that treat you like crap. And that keeps you absolutely in your comfort zone. It keeps you thinking you don't matter. It keeps thinking that you are misunderstood, right? It's true. You didn't have your emotional needs met. And then when your inner child comes out, you push it down still as an adult instead of trying to meet the needs of that child. Okay? These are some of the things I need you to realize. When your inner child pops out and acts a fool, there is a reason. Just like when your child does it, there is a reason. Sometimes they just need to self-regulate. And so sometimes you need a safe space to go and scream outside or beat into a pillow to self-regulate your inner child. Okay? So you are not hesitant to bring up emotions and you're not scared to be rejected by the other person. These feelings that you carry with you, with this being your core wound, the emotions are disconnected and sadness. Right? It's heartbreaking, right? It's heartbreaking. I do not want to be a part of my child feeling disconnected and sad and live their lives being scared they're going to be rejected because they're being who they are. Right? And that's the attitude you need to have with your inner child because they're still there. They're still stuck there. They're still stuck there. As an adult, when you come to here, you're where your toes person, you're here. You know you're valuable. I don't need to tell you that, right? Telling and speaking and truly knowing and believing are two different things. So when you come to here, where your toes, you know you're valuable, right? You're valuable at work. You're valuable to friends. All these things, right? You have them. But you also have the trauma of it. And you also feel like you don't matter and you're misunderstood. And that is because you did not have someone fulfill that. So you're constantly teaching. You have a video of your daughter singing, dancing like you used to. Yeah. And the thing is some of the easiest ways to start processing and doing that. And I've told you guys this before, like part of my shadow work was a lot of things like this. I used to always think I was shy because I was always the person in the corner looking at the girl dancing on the table at the bar thinking, oh my God, does she know what she's doing? She's completely embarrassing herself. She should not be doing that. Like, really? Well, clearly no one's ever rejected her craziness, right? And if they have, it didn't happen when she was younger. Okay? It didn't happen when she was 3. You know, if she wanted to dance, then she got to dance. Hey, Aileen. And so that's the things that you need to think about. Like the disconnection and sadness. You feel disconnected and sad because of something else that someone else was responsible for you. It is time for us to heal and take our life into our own hands, right? If I'm going to feel shitty, let it be because it's something I did, right? I'm sick of feeling shitty for things that other people did to me. Let me learn from my own experiences, right? So if I'm going to feel like I don't matter and I'm misunderstood, let it be because of some stupid shit that I do, right? And so that's kind of my goal is when I talk about these things, like I want you to understand your core wound is you don't matter and you're misunderstood. It's because you didn't have your emotional needs met and it became difficult for you to communicate what you need. Then you're certainly not going to tell your friend, lover, significant other, parent, whoever, as an adult, what you need. No, because they might reject you. So you're disconnected and you're sad. That makes me sad, right? I'm going to do one more because this is going longer. So next week, I will do 2 other of the wounds. So I'm going to do the anxious one next, okay? And then next week, we are going to focus on some other things, and then we're going to focus on the other 2 attachment styles. So that is what we're going to do. So I'm going to go through the anxious, preoccupied wounds. She says no. So anxious, preoccupied wound is characterized by a lack of consistent parenting in childhood, which increases your anxiety and fear of abandonment. Does that? Hi, I'm here, right? I'm here. So these are some of the core wounds for someone who struggles with anxious attachment. Okay. Are you anxious in relationships? Are you anxious constantly with friendships, relationships? You expect the worst, things like that. See if these resonate with you. Your core wound is I will be abandoned. I know I'm going to be abandoned, period. Okay. The explanation and reason why you feel this way: through lack of emotional regulation, you receive the message that you are unimportant, which is a form of abandonment. You can have abandonment trauma with 500 people around you, with a house of a mom and dad and 10 brothers and a dog and a picket fence, okay? Because it's just you receiving the message that you are unimportant at a time can create that, okay? It's very true. It doesn't have to be a huge event. It can be, right? So the reason why you feel like you're going to be abandoned is because through lack of emotional regulation, you received a message that you're not important. And that is a form of abandonment. And when you're constantly, through actions of others, made to feel like you're not important as a child, you have to work around that, right? You either act terrible or maybe you act like a saint. That way you can have somebody care about you, right? Your behaviors that you have, you're more vigilant of when others are not available for you. You're more clingy in relationships and you contact them more frequently. Okay? These are the people that have to, and there's a difference. I want you guys to know, like, there's people I talk to every day. I love talking to every day. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people. I had a friend once and she would text, not me, but text her significant other. And if they didn't respond in like 5 minutes, then she would respond again and again and again and again. And it could be a really simple reason. It doesn't necessarily have to be something crazy, right? And the emotions that you carry are panic and fear, right? Because when you don't get that, like, where are they? Why aren't they here yet? Like, they were supposed to be here an hour ago. Did they get in a wreck? Or did they decide to leave? Are they never coming home? I mean, literally, it could be that their phone died and they were stuck in the car behind a wreck, right? But nonetheless, this is what triggers and happens. You have panic and fear. Okay? You have panic and fear. The next one is I don't belong, which I feel this one a lot, but I always say like I need to go to outer space. I'm waiting for my spaceship, right? Or someone yes, or someone leaves their phone on at home while at work. That was me. And listen, that was a bad day too, because I didn't have my car because my son took it, and I couldn't have someone drive me home to get my phone because he had my key. Like, disaster. But your core wound is feeling like you don't belong. You don't belong. You don't belong. Hey, Callie, I don't belong here. It's because your identity is tied to external factors such as friendships, relationships, material possessions. And as soon as something weakens, and it doesn't have to really feel weakened, right? It could be like what happened, like you get this immediate fear. You seek out confirmation and reassurance from partner or friends. If you do not feel included, you become fearful, right? And it goes back to, am I going to leave or do I stay? Like, what do I do? Right? You can experience jealousy, you can experience sadness, and you can experience fear. These are things that are ingrained in you when you're not getting the things you need as a child. I will be rejected. This is another one. It's the same, right, as the other. This one's anxious. The other one was what? It was dismissive, right? This one is anxious, and we'll do the other two next week. And I will post things for you within the Blend Your Spirit over on Facebook. So if you're not over there and you want worksheets, go over there. Hey, Nancy, how are you? Good to see you, my dear. So I will be rejected. Okay. I just know I'm going to be rejected. It's what happens. You received inconsistent soothing from your parents, and when they did soothe you, it did not soothe you. This felt like rejection, like you didn't matter because they didn't do what you needed them to do. If people aren't available, it feels like rejection. Okay? And I feel that. I feel that. Actually, I just now feel that because I can tell you when my husband and I, and this is me being transparent, right? When my husband and I separated for a couple of years because of various reasons, but he started drinking a lot and it was out of craziness. Anyway, all I wanted him to do, like, dude, just take me on a Sonic date. Take me on a Sonic date. If I matter, like, make a point to take me on a Sonic date. That's all you have to do is take me on a Sonic date. He never did. And something that simple made me feel like I didn't matter. It was a fucking Sonic drink. And I say that because it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't about the drink, right? It was about me saying this is what I needed and you didn't do it. So that meant I didn't matter and you rejected me, right? So that's what, like I say, I do my work with you guys, but I really do, right? Because this is exactly what happened in that moment. And so you received inconsistent soothing from your parents. So when they did not soothe you, but they were there, but they didn't do what you needed, then it felt like rejection. And so if people aren't available, it feels like rejection. Okay. The behavior you can have is being overly dependent on other people. These are the people that are very codependent. This is where my husband and I used to be very codependent on each other. We are not, right? You've always had the tendency. We're not anymore. We're completely different people. But, okay, this is where this happens. Overly dependent on other people. You may lose your own identity in relationships and or friendships. This is codependency at its finest. Okay? You want to become one with them. You can't live without them. No, you can. You can live without anybody. You may not want to, but you can, right? You carry around with you sadness, loneliness, and despair. You carry around sadness, loneliness, and despair, and it has nothing to do with anything you did as a child, and you harbor that on your shoulders until you're a grown-ass adult, far longer than you ever should. Okay? The last one I'm going to talk about, anxious, preoccupied attachment. Your core wound is, I'm alone. I'm alone. I feel alone. Nobody's around me. Nobody wants me. I'm alone. The explanation of why you feel this way, this is your core wound. Through inconsistent parenting times, you were forced to be alone, and it felt scary because there was not the consistent security from your caregiver. You are going to panic when someone steps away because you think they're going to leave, okay? You think they're going to leave. Even if they're not, and they've never given you any kind of inclination. Inconsistent parenting, you were forced to be alone, and it felt scary because you did not have consistent security from your caregiver. Hey, Shane. The behaviors that you have because of this, clinging to others through fear of being left. Looking for behaviors in others that might suggest you're about to be left alone. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to repeat it for the ones in the back. You cling onto others through fear of being left. Looking for behaviors in them that might suggest you're about to be left. Yes, work it, work it. You cling on to others through the fear of being left, and then you look for behaviors in others that might suggest you're about to be left. How fun. How fun. So you don't want to be left. You feel alone. You don't want to be left, but you cling to people. You cling to people all day long, but then you sit there and look for behaviors in people of people that are going to leave. Talk about wanting to step out of a spiral, guys. The emotions you carry with you from this are hopelessness, loneliness, and despair. You carry around feeling hopeless. You carry around feeling lonely. You carry around despair. Because not only are you alone and you desperately want to connect with someone else, you truly do with everything. You're fucking terrified to do it. So you cling on to others because you don't want to be left. And it might not be to good people. It might not be to people that actually would be healthy for you, but you cling to it. And in the same breath, you're staring and watching ever so like carefully for any signs that you're about to get left. And you spend your whole life doing this. And you want to know why you're tired. You want to know why you don't have relationships that are successful. You want to know why you can't grow as a person. Guys, these are not things that are yours, right? These are emotions you carry. It's hopelessness, loneliness, despair. These are things you carry. And you have for so long. Okay, you have for so long. So I'm going to go back here and tell you a couple of things that you can do to start looking into this, okay? It is possible to begin a healing process to soothe your insecure attachment styles. It takes a lot of time and understanding, okay? You probably will not ever be able to fully heal, right, from some of the wounds. And I say that because, example, I had a hip replacement 7 years ago, okay? My hip works great. I love it. There's no pain. There's no problems. There's a big scar there, right? There's a big scar there. It lets me know that I've healed, okay? I've healed. Could one day I have to have surgery again to fix it? Absolutely, it can happen. Okay? It doesn't mean that the potential for it to break open again isn't there. The potential for me to have the surgery again will be there because I'm living, because I'm alive. Because I'm alive. And these scars you have are no different. You can start to heal and you can build up scar tissue. There's always going to be the potential for it to break open, right? Because you're human. As long as you're alive, it's there. Okay? As long as you're alive. You have to start looking at things like self-soothing things that can help you, right? Wear your toes. That's just a starting point, right? I almost taught about, and I will teach about this at a different time. You can do Reiki. There's certain Reiki you can do on yourself when you're starting to feel overwhelmed. Some of it's like this. Some of it's like this. There's certain things, right? And sometimes it's things that we do inherently anyway. You know, almost like that that's a healing, an energetic healing. But there's things that you can do, right? You can do energy work. You can have energy work done. But tips for all attachment styles, for the ones that I talked about. Communication, okay? Communication is hard for people who have abandonment issues because they're constantly scared in the back of their minds that this person's actually on their way out and they really don't care, right? Communication is hard when you're triggered. The normal thing you want to do is push those feelings away because it worked in childhood. That's what you're taught. However, if this keeps the wound open, okay? Keeps the wound open. Tell your partner or your friends how you're feeling and why you're feeling a certain way. Discuss why you might be responding in a certain way. Right? I had a conversation, I think it was with Rebel, because I talked to her a lot. And it was like, I think this is shadow. Is this shadow? I think it's shadow. You need people, right? You need people. I can be that. Rebel can be that. Everybody in here can be that, right? If you're not sure why you're feeling what you are, like, we're human. And if people say they don't feel that shit, they're full of shit. Even the best of us have days where we doubt. Tell your partner, your friends, how you're feeling and why you're feeling a certain way, right? If they're going to leave, bye. And I hate to say it that way because we all know we're all terrified to lose people that we love. But communication, why are you acting that way? Why am I feeling this way? Recognizing it is half the battle. It's true. It's true. Journaling is another thing you can help yourself with. Journaling is a powerful way to begin reprogramming some of the experiences you had in childhood. Here are some questions that you can ask yourself. Thank you, guys. What situation triggered you? So when you fly off the handle and your head spins around and you're going to lose your mind and go exorcist, why am I being triggered right now? You know when your head spins around, so does everyone else around you. You know. So what situation triggered you? Why? What am I feeling because of this? Like, what are you really feeling? We don't stop and think what we're really feeling, right? I might be totally pissed off. Am I pissed off and I'm actually very sad and I am masking as being angry? Probably. Right? Probably. So be real with yourself on what you're feeling. Why is this causing so much pain, like painful emotions? What belief or wound is this triggering? Someone pacing. Absolutely, Rebel. Is there validity to this belief or is this an old pain? Is all the people around you really going to leave you? No, they're not. Here to tell you, they're not. It might feel that way, but they're not. It's an emotion. Emotion is different than reality 99% of the time. Feel your emotion, right? Feel it. Don't push it down. Feel it and know it's an emotion. How can I meet this unmet need for myself? How can you meet this unmet need? Think about that. How can I meet this unmet need? And be self-compassionate. Be self-compassionate, right? When you are triggered, it is your inner child showing up who did not get their needs met. Okay, this is equivalent to having a child who is out of control that is your child. Okay? Your child. Just pretend like this child that's sitting next to you it's your inner child, right? They're out of control, right? They're not listening. They're acting crazy. They're acting crazy. Pretend it's a real child. Because it is. It is your inner child showing up who did not get their needs met. So you need to stop pushing it down, right? And continuing to tell them they don't matter, because that's what it is when you don't acknowledge what your triggers are and what you're upset about. You're telling your inner child that they don't matter. Exactly what you're fighting against. And you're turning around and doing the same thing, right? It's a vicious circle. Try and imagine that you're talking to your younger self. How would you respond, right? How would you respond to your younger self, right? If someone says something to you and it triggers, they're getting ready to leave. What would be a healthy way for you to reparent yourself and to say something to them? Like, it's okay. If they leave, I still have you. I'm still here. I'm not ever leaving, right? You're not ever leaving your inner child. You're stuck with them forever. So saying to little Averon, to little Rebel, to little Hemp, to little Tiny, to little everybody, Midnight Owl, right? To everybody that I see in here. What would you say to them to make them feel different? Because that's what we need to do, right? You're in control of who hurt your inner now, okay? Because you're an adult. Your inner child's not going to get abandoned because you're an adult and you can take care of yourself. You may not want to, right? You may not want to at all, but you can. A 3-year-old can't. And your 3-year-old desperately wants you to come out and take care of her or him and protect them at all cost. And when you do that, your life is going to change. Your life will change when you start doing that. How would you respond to them? Validate everything that comes up for that child. Yeah, hand them a shiny rock, right? And that sounds funny, but there's something to be said about that, right? When you were a child, if your parents were like, you do not need stuffed animals, that is stupid. We don't have the money for it. They're gross and dirty, whatever. Go buy yourself a stuffed animal, for goodness sake, right? It's true. It's true. Validate everything that comes up for that child. If you get upset because someone has something that you really want or that you can't afford, it's one thing to just be an adult and be jealous of something or be upset. But if it's something that's like, it really is hurtful and it feels deliberate and you're getting upset, look at what your inner child needs. Okay, look at what your inner child needs. Reassure them that they are safe and you are able to handle anything that comes their way. They're not in danger anymore. Give yourself space and unconditional love. A lot of information, huh? A lot of information. So, next week, we are going to talk about other ways that we can move forward in healing. I'm going to talk about the other 2 attachment styles in telling you why you feel that way. To give you, I didn't like you linked. Hey, thank you, Tim. It's interesting information. Did you guys enjoy this? I find it really fascinating when we can stop for a moment and pause and we can think about the things. Most of your shadow work is about them. Yeah. Yeah, it's, as children and even growing into adults, we're taught to push our emotions down. And I'm not saying be the person that is overly emotional, right? Because that in itself is inconsistent. But when you find something coming up and it's something that is going to make your head spin around, right? There's always people, right, in your path. If you can read my mind, so you guys know what I'm saying. There's people in your path that are going to trigger feelings and emotions. They're there for a reason, right? They're there for a reason. They have a door to a classroom open, trying to see if you are going to go in and learn about yourself, if you're going to shut the door and walk away. Remember, your triggers are an open door to a classroom to where you are the subject of study. You can choose to go into the classroom and learn. You can choose to shut the door. No matter what, if you don't pass, you're going to have to go back and repeat that grade or repeat that class because it's going to come up again. Okay? It's school. We're here on this planet to learn and teach each other. Okay? I hope that this helped you. Hemp, you're so funny. I hope that it helped you. If you guys are in the Blend Your Spirit Academy, I do have a video I'll be posting from last night's class. It was kind of a cluster to try to get it on. But I do have a video on Blue Lotus for you over in Blend Your Spirit. So if you're a Blue Lotus girl like myself, go check it out and see what you think. We will be doing the higher self. Probably I've got to partner with Rebel and see when she wants to do it. The next one we're doing will probably be within the next week. And I haven't had a chance, Rebel. I'm gonna look. I think I have it downloaded. I think I just need to post it. The next higher self is going to be about marijuana strains that are good for meditation. And so we will be going through that. And then the following one will be strains for sex. So we're going to do some of that. I do have some information I'm going to post very soon as I have a free moment of the emotion code healing when Casey came on. And I'm going to have some of that information and videos out. If you would like to learn more about the emotion code healing, find Casey on TikTok. If you can't find her, I think it's emotion code healing, I think, but message me and I'll get you in touch with her. You can get a free 5-minute session with her. It is crazy. I don't know anyone who's had the experience that's like, it doesn't work. If anything, it's very emotional, and I think you have to be more on the leery side of things that are pulled out. But it is absolutely amazing. She can pinpoint down to the age that you experienced this trauma and help you release it. It's not something I'm trained in doing, and I'm starting to bring in other people with different healing modalities just for talking and learning. And I love it. Right? I love it. It's great. It's amazing to start pulling together a whole community of people that are healers that truly just want what's best for everybody, right? No one's in competition with anybody, right? We're all here to help each other heal. That's kind of what we're hoping for. So yeah, it is no joke. So, all right, guys, I will post the new crystals over in the new sales group, the new ones I just got. And then I will post some worksheets for you guys as well. Next week, we'll go over the other 2 styles and we'll talk about more ways to heal. So that's what I got. So I appreciate you guys so much. Ooh, one more thing. Tomorrow night, Casey is doing the other healing modality she does with me. Oh, Nancy, I am so sorry. That's hard. So sorry. But I am doing the other modality tomorrow night with her. So I'll let you guys know how that works. The grid one. So anyway, if you need me, come find me. Bye guys. Have a great night.